One of the hardest things to do when writing a primary song is to come up with a melody that you're happy with, that you like, that is singable, and especially that is memorable. And I'm super excited to have a special guest, one of my students and friends, Margie Christensen, here today to help us discuss this challenge and a really cool solution that we found together and that she's been using quite a lot. In fact, she's been using it so much that all of the other students in our workshops have started to call this technique a Margie, doing a Margie. So we're going to get into this technique a little bit today. But first, let me bring Margie on, and we're going to get to know her a little bit and her story to help you see that you too can really turn your testimony into song. So Margie, welcome. We're super excited to have you on the show today. So tell us a little bit about your musical background.
I don't have very much music background, and I don't have a choral background. I love music. I've always loved music. I had some piano lessons when I was growing up. I played clarinet and band through school, but I didn't ever learn to play anything well, not even one piece of music well. So that wasn't something I knew how to do. And I found Latter-day Musiciversity because somehow I came across your blog, and I started getting your emails. And I was called to be the organist in my ward, and I couldn't play the right notes. And that's really bad.
Well, the organ's not easy, right? I struggle on the organ myself. It's a challenge.
Well, I did have organ lessons for a year when I was 15.
Okay.
So I knew the basics of the organ, but I hadn't been taught how to play hymns correctly. So I'd go to BYU and take their organ workshops. And they told us to learn harmony, and you were offering a harmony class, so I took the harmony class.
That's right. That was your first class. I think you'd been getting emails for quite a while before jumping in.
Oh, since you first started that blog, I've been getting your emails and following it.
Okay.
So I was interested.
Yeah.
Because I kept reading those emails, even though I didn't understand anything.
And I remember when you came into that first class, I think it was the Complete Harmony Playbook, and we learned all the diatonic chords and the chromatic chords. I remember how nervous you were, but you did great, and you succeeded really well. And I remember specifically at the end of the class saying, "What's next?" And I knew exactly where you were because I've seen this so many times. You had enough to write your first primary song. And I remember when I told you that, I remember your response, but I'd like to hear it from you. Do you recall how you felt about my answer?
I said, no. I never have any ideas. I never have any ideas for lyrics. I never have melodies come into my head. I can't do this.
And what did I say?
You just said that I could. Yeah. I knew I couldn't. I knew I couldn't do it. I didn't have the ability to do it.
Oh, that's so funny.
But over the next couple of weeks, we exchanged emails, and you assured me you could teach me, and so I started thinking about learning.
Okay.
The possibility of learning that, the possibility of learning how to do that hadn't existed for me before that.
Oh, wow. I mean, it is daunting, to go from, well, I'm, barely holding on, playing the organ, and just dipping my toe into learning chords and harmony and how they fit together. And now you want me to write music? Like, that can seem like a big, daunting leap. I totally get it. But I remember you jumped in, you started the Primary Songwriting Workshop, and slowly but surely did great and wrote a beautiful song. And that's been probably 2 years since then, something like that.
It's been 2 years.
Yeah, and you've taken that workshop multiple times now and written a handful now of really beautiful songs. Now, tell me, that first song, I think that was the one that you took to your family reunion. Isn't that right?
Yes, it was.
Tell us about that.
It was a song I wrote for my family. That's what you were encouraging us to do. And it was kind of a song about my family and with my testimony of the gospel, because several of my kids don't go to church anymore. And well, it's when we were in that harmony class, and I was thinking about doing the primary workshop. And Melanie said to me one day, "Don't you want to put your testimony into a song for your children and grandchildren?" And I just, in that moment, I knew I needed to.
Wow.
That was something I needed to do. So
that's really interesting. You know, I say those things because I do believe them, because that's how I feel about writing music. But it's hard to know sometimes from my side of the equation if that makes sense to others and if it seems like something valuable. But let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, I have family members who've left the church as well. And what is it about music, a song, even a super simple song, that gives you hope when it comes to sharing the gospel with your family?
Well, the Holy Ghost uses music to teach me and to inspire me, and music is memorable when words aren't. It's the power of the music and the words together.
Yeah.
That they stick in your memory and they stick in your heart. And some moments when you're ready, when you're willing to receive it, the Holy Ghost just uses those to teach you.
So true.
Something.
And what was the response at your family reunion from your family?
Well, it was kind of a command performance. We told them they had to sing it. We made a recording for the showcase.
Right.
But they were all willing. They all of them. I mean, I have 10 children, 27 grandchildren, and they all sang it. They sang it together, and we recorded it, and it was wonderful. I mean, it just brought so much joy to me hearing them sing the song written for them.
Yeah.
And we sang it again before we left. Before everyone went home, we sang it together again.
Yeah,
it was great.
Your very first song, I remember asking you, did you ever think you would write a song that your family would sing? It's like, no.
No.
Yeah, that's so great. I think I remember that one of your children, who's one that you've been concerned about, came to you later in the week or a week after or something, saying that your song had stuck in their head. Is that right?
Yes, it was my youngest son, who's one who doesn't go to church anymore. And it was while we were still there at the family reunion one afternoon. He said, "Your song's been going through my head all day."
Wow. That's really special. That's really special.
Sometime when he's ready, maybe the Holy Ghost will bring that music back to him.
Yeah. That's the hope. That's the desire. And there's, like you said, there's something so easily memorable about a tune. It's almost like a certain smell will bring back my grandma and my childhood. You know, I'll smell something my mom is cooking, and it's, whoa, suddenly I'm 10 years old again at grandma's house. And somehow music can do that too. It recalls these feelings and memories, and it's a powerful way. It's a powerful way to bring back those spiritual memories. That's really great. Well, let's jump into some of this more technical, what does it mean to do a Margie, as we say now. So back to this idea of writing melodies. So in the Primary Songwriting Workshop, for those who are new to this, we divide up writing a primary song into 4 hopefully manageable chunks. We start with a couple weeks working on our lyrics, which for many is the hardest part. It's the hardest part for me. Then we work on our melodies for a couple of weeks. Then we work on the chords for a couple of weeks. Then we work on the piano part for a couple of weeks. And I remember, and you're not the only one who has struggled with getting a melody going. It's challenging, especially the opening couple of measures. Like if the opening couple of measures don't stick, it's really hard to get the song to go. And so why don't you tell us the story of your question to me? Because you said something like, I can't get this started. What do I do? And I came up with some ridiculous answer that you were happy to follow, which I was pleasantly surprised about.
Well, I get stuck and just don't know what to do. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I sit at the piano and, plunk some notes out and see if I like it. And I wasn't finding anything that I liked. I didn't really understand at the time how important those first two measures were. And but I think you explained that to me, that you needed, those first two measures had to really, you call it a hook, but they have to get the attention. They have to get your attention.
Yeah.
And so you said, I want you to take the first two measures and write 20 different ways, 20 different melodies for those two measures.
What a mean teacher.
Yes. I was having trouble with one.
20's got to be out of his mind. But what happened?
But I did it. It was a challenge, and I sat down, and I don't know, it probably took me 2 or 3 days to just come up with 20 different ways to write those two measures.
Yeah.
And then you listened to them and told me which ones were best.
Yeah. So actually, Margie found one of her melody exercise worksheets, and I'm going to pull it up on screen now to show you who are watching what this looks like. So this is, let's see if I can get the computer to do what I'm asking it to. This is one of her sheets. So you can see here at the top, we have this: Ezekiel the prophet saw in vision water from the temple flowing. So in this case, it's 4 measures. This is not the original song that she had done, but this is another example. But you can see that line 2 is the same text, line 3 is the same text, line 4 is, and on and on. And there's 2 whole pages of this. The same opening line from the lyrics with lots of melodic possibilities. And, one of the reasons I like to do this is because there's so many ways you can combine notes. I mean, it's just endless, right? We all have the same 12 notes. We've been using the same 12 notes for 800, 9,000 years, and all the music we know is from the same 8 notes. So how many ways can we combine them? How do they work with the text and so on? So just as a quick example here, we can see some of these. And so she brings them to class and we play them. So, okay, here's the first one. It's like, okay, maybe this works because of this. Maybe it could be better because of this. We try the next one. And on and on. And we go through and like, okay, this little bit is working because of X, Y, Z. This little bit is working because of A, B, and C, and so on. And then it seems like you tend to take those notes and head back to the piano or to your desk or whatever and sort of assemble a new version or a few new versions of a melody. Is that right? Is that your next step usually?
Well, I just go through and write down like 20 of them or 25, and I explore all different keys, lots of different keys. Since I don't have a music background, I just really don't have a feeling of how it's going to be different in one key than another. Yeah. So I just try different things, and it's just kind of an exploration exercise, looking for possibilities. And I try starting high, and I try starting low, and I try starting in the middle, and I try thinking of a little rhythmic pattern. So I'll get down 20 or 30 of those, and then the next day I'll sit down and play through them, and I don't like anything. I always like that. I don't like any of them. So then I start revising them, and I'll just play the first one and say, this isn't quite right, and revise it, go through, revise them all, and I'll do that maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. And
then some of them, after 3 or 4 times, I still don't like it, and so I just eliminate those. And then the ones that I like better, I send to you. I often end up, you tell me which ones are the strongest, and I'll often end up taking the first half of one and the second half of another one and putting those together.
Yeah. Let's jump in a little deeper to something that you just said. You're talking about putting this piece together and this piece together and so on. The word compose, sometimes I think we psych ourselves out as, someone who's trying to start to write a song or really any creative endeavor, but especially true in music, I find. We think that compose means I have to come up with something totally new that nobody's ever heard, and it's like this whole cloth creative experience. But actually, to compose means to assemble. And that gives me hope, because I don't hear melodies floating in the sky and pulling them down. I mean, that's happened to me maybe 2 or 3 times in 25 years of composing, which is not very much. It's usually like you. It's the workshop. It's like whittling. It's like one little swipe it, you go whittle away until you, there's a nugget. Okay, I like that nugget. That nugget is working. Now, here's another nugget. Okay, it took me 30 tries to find, but that nugget's working. All right, let's put those together. Let's assemble these nuggets until it has legs and it feels hookable and memorable and it's got the right emotion in it. But that's hard work. It kind of reminds me of this talk that President Nelson gave not long ago. And he said something that I remember at the time, it was during the pandemic. When he said this, I was like, oh man, maybe probably because he was just calling me out. He said, lazy learners and lax disciples will always struggle to exercise even a particle of faith. Lazy learners and lax disciples. Ouch. Right? It's kind of a smack around, like, oh, it's so true. So true in writing music too. But what I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this idea. It is hard work. I'm not going to say anything else because it truly is hard work. But I find when the intention behind this creative process is not about us. It's not about, look at me, I'm a great songwriter. Look at me, I'm a great composer. When it's about, I really want this to be able to hopefully serve somebody else, how does that change the difficulty of the process for you?
Well, I don't think it changes the difficulty, but it changes my willingness to try.
Yeah.
It's still just as hard.
Yeah.
I don't have the difficulty of getting over not wanting to do it, maybe. It does change my willingness.
Yeah.
In the beginning, everything was so hard because I didn't know anything. And I would just have to say to myself, this is how I got by it. I would say, you just have to try. You just have to do something, and then Doug will help you.
Yes, that's right.
And that's
I will.
what I do.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the magical things about how we do this here. It's not you're hiding away at home by yourself doing all the work. Of course, you have to do some of that. You got to go. So I call it into the cave, into the composer cave, and you got to do the work on your own. But then we have group meetings a couple times a week where we come together and we share what we've been working on in our respective caves, and we talk it through. And that, for me, is one of the great things about these workshops is bringing that together. How has that helped you, the coming to class and hearing others' thoughts and working together on our songs?
Oh, I absolutely depend on it. That's why I take every workshop. Because I need the structure, and I need the community.
Yeah.
It's when the focus becomes just doing something and then getting an evaluation, both from you and from other students.
Right.
And you get new ideas, and you know where you need to go back and work things out again, and so then you can take the next step.
Yeah. Now we're gonna play this final version of this song here in a little bit, but before we do, a couple more questions and maybe a couple more tips, because I want you to hear Margie's final version of this beautiful song, "Come to the Temple," that I just showed you a bit of. But we'll do that in just a minute. First, one question about those group meetings. Something that I have struggled with in the past, and maybe you've experienced this. Writing something, hard as it is on its own, I have found can sometimes be even harder to share it with somebody, especially a work in progress. It's like, has that been challenging for you?
Just sharing myself is challenging.
Sure.
And that was when I took that first workshop, and even after, I just faced the huge amounts of fear. And part of it was knowing that I didn't know anything. But the greatest part of that fear was just the fear of sharing myself. Yeah. And sometimes that was overwhelming.
Sure.
And just doing it, the way to get over it is just to do it. And class is wonderful. Everyone is wonderful, and no one is critical. Yeah. And it's completely supportive. And so there are all kinds of people at all kinds of levels in these classes. When you have people who have been writing for several years and write really well, people who have music background and knew all this even before they came. And then you have people like me who are just starting out, and we're in the same class.
Right.
Comparing our music. Well, not really comparing it, but we're all presenting our music. Yeah. And but it just soon becomes obvious that you just meet each one of us where we are and help us take the next step.
Yes.
And you can help an advanced student in the very same class that you could help me when I was starting.
That is one of the things that I strive for a lot. But what I love about that is it almost feels to me, and I don't want to sound blasphemous is not the right word, but in the temple, the playing field is leveled, right? We're all dressed in white. Nobody can tell the size of anybody else's bank account, or what kind of car they drive, or what kind of position they have at work, or what calling they have in the church. We enter and we have the intent to serve, and we're all dressed in the same white kind of clothing, and that's a really special kind of thing. And that's always been my desire, to have a similar, as much as possible, situation in a workshop where we all come with whatever we have, whatever background we have, whatever experience we have, whatever fears we have. And believe me, those who have background have just as much fear as those who don't when it comes to sharing their work, including myself. But we have had that experience again and again in these workshops, that everybody is there with the same intent, which is bigger than writing a piece of music. It's the intent of sharing the gospel through our music. And it just helps everybody to appreciate each other. But I think there's an additional thing, which is maybe a little more on the technical side, is that we're not looking at your piece the whole class. There might be five or six of us in there, but we all take turns. And so, what is it like for you as an observer when we're working on other people's songs? Is that useful to you? What do you get out of that?
Oh, yes, I always learn something from, it's easy. I learn from people who are better than me, but sometimes I even learn more from someone who started after me, someone who's more of a beginner, because although you've taught the concepts over and over, it takes a lot of repetition to really know them. Yeah. And you learn a little bit and you try it, and then you can learn more. Right. But going back when you're teaching something I've heard several times, still I learn a lot from that. I learn a lot from watching you work with someone who is more of a beginner than I am.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. The thing for me is I learn too as I'm doing it. It's kind of like teaching at the gospel, right? Like I'm currently the gospel doctrine teacher in my ward, and I'm sure I'm the one doing the most learning as I'm trying to figure out how to teach it, and that's also true in our classes, which is it's really special. We're all learning together, helping each other, and many times participants in the workshops see things that I didn't see and have ideas that I didn't have, and it's great. That's how it should be, right? We're all sort of growing together. Well, let's touch on a couple of additional things that you mentioned to me before we got on this call. A harmony idea that you shared with me, and a bit about lyrics. Let's start with lyrics. Writing lyrics can be very overwhelming. Speaking from personal experience, what has been maybe one or two things that have helped you work through the hurdle of creating your own lyrics for your songs?
Oh, I have to find words somewhere. I think in pictures and feelings. Whenever I have words, they've come from somewhere else. Something someone has said, something I've read. Memories have words in them, and in that respect, my memories have words. But I don't think about things with new words. It's not something I do.
Yeah, I'm the same.
So I go to the scriptures and I go to conference talks. This talk, Come to the Temple, came from a conference talk Elder Renlund gave in April of 2018. And because I think in pictures captivate me. And I was captivated by the image of water flowing from underneath the temple, becoming a great river flowing down into the desert, and everywhere the water went, everything lived. So I'm captivated by pictures, and I just have to immerse myself. I'll read the scriptures that I'm thinking about. I'll read them every day for 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes I sit and write them out by hand, trying to just slow my thought processes down.
Yeah.
And conference talk's the same. I have to get that into myself.
Yeah.
And then I can start trying to pull out the important phrases that I can use to make a song, but it will take me 2 months.
Sure. Yeah. But that's really good, because I think for me and for many others, the challenge is the blank page. Like, where do I even start? I can't sit down and write iambic pentameter. I can't sit down and immediately think in common meter or whatever that I'm going to write. That's just not one of my gifts. Some people can, and they're amazing at it. And wow, I'm in awe of them. But you still, if that's not the way your mind works, you don't have to start with a blank page. And from what you just said, you don't start with a blank page either. You go to a source. You have an idea of the kind of expression you want to give across, but then you find scriptures and you find conference talks and you mine for phrases that can help you. So for those of you listening, if you're stuck on your lyrics and that blank page is staring at you and you don't know what to do and you're going to give up, maybe take some advice from Margie and find a scripture and find a phrase and I like the writing out too, because there's something so focused about taking the time to write every word. There's an interesting connection between the kinesthetics of doing that in your mind and your spirit. That's a really great tip. Okay, let's jump to harmony really quick, and then we're gonna play your song for everybody. What is one or two things that have helped you figure out the chords or shaping the chords in a way that you are happy with?
Well, I didn't know anything. I had no idea how to do this at all when I started. And you've just taught us to look at the notes on the strong beats in the chord. And that will dictate what the harmony needs to be. I need to have the root and the third of the chord has to be there for every strong beat. But if you say you have 2 notes, there are only a few chords that those two notes fit in. If you have one note, there are 4 or 5 maybe. So I take the note I have, the melody note, and I think about every chord that note is part of, and try them.
Yeah.
So
there again, that's just a great. Let me drill down on that for a second for the listener, because again, going from melody to harmony can feel really daunting. Like, what? I don't know, what chords am I supposed to use, right? But the melody has clues in it, and that's a really good first clue. It's like, well, where are the strong beats, and which notes are on, especially the downbeat of every measure. If you can just start with a downbeat and take the note you have in the melody from the downbeat and then plug it into different chords, that's a way to start without the blank page blues, because you have something. You have a melody note and you have a downbeat. Now, what are my possibilities? So this is kind of the art of possibility. As you know, you and I have a favorite guy, Ben Zander, who wrote a book called The Art of Possibility. But that's very much what this creative process is. It's like, okay, what possibilities are there, and how can I assemble them into this song? That's a really great point you make. Thank you for that. Anything else you want to say about harmony that's helped you?
Well, as I sit and play it at the piano, the chords all have different feels. And so, I try one chord. No, that's not the feeling I want. Try another chord. No, that's not the feeling that I want. But one of them will have a feeling that I like.
Yeah.
And so that's how I choose among the possibilities.
Excellent. Okay, great. Well, let's not let them wait any longer. Let's jump in and play your song, Come to the Temple, and let them enjoy that. So just remember, Margie started with 0 experience and a lot of fear. And can I actually do this? And then she went through these processes of doing a Margie, so-called, of trying out all these individual melody blocks. Can we get it to work, and so on, and then ended up with this beautiful song. Well, isn't that a beautiful song? I just love that song. It makes me so proud as a teacher to watch you write these beautiful songs, and I just think it's so wonderful that you're able to share your testimony through them, which really brings me to sort of my final question: is how have things changed for you now as you have become a songwriter?
Oh, writing primary songs has changed my life in a wonderful way that I could never have imagined. I did not think of myself as being creative, and I hadn't really created something before, brought something into existence that didn't exist before. And it just brings me joy. It makes me happy. I sit down and work on a song, and it just makes me happy. Every morning I wake up thinking about whatever song I'm working on.
Oh, nice.
So I just have to have one. I have to have a song all the time. When I finish one, I have to start another one.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's become part of my life.
That's so wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. Well, for those of you listening, if this sounds like maybe I could do that, if Margie's giving you hope, come and join us. Down below this video in the description, we've got a couple of links where you can check out what we're doing. One of them is as a free course where you can learn some little harmony tricks. I send you an email every day for a week with a new little harmony lesson, and try this, try that. And then there's also a link to our Primary Songwriting Workshop, so you can hear some of the stories. You actually hear a bunch of the songs that students like Margie have written on that page. And we'd love to have you. It's such a warm, welcoming place where you can turn your testimony into song. So thank you, Margie, for letting me bring you on and for sharing your story and what you've learned with us. We really appreciate your time and for sharing all that with us.
Well, thank you, Doug, and thank you for teaching me.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. It's so great to teach. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time here on the Latter-day Musiversity channel. Hit the subscribe button so you can get more updates about what we're doing, and we'll see you next time.